In today's show, 5 bold predictions for the Portland Trail Blazers heading into the NBA draft. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen. Coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, well, we made it. Listeners of all ages and ilks, shapes, and sizes. It is NBA Draft Day. The first round of the NBA Draft is today, Wednesday, June 26th. Then we'll have the second round following on Thursday. This is a massive moment for the Blazers, right? Like, they got to get this draft and the next one right in a major way to kind of pull the franchise out of the mud, and get it right could mean a variety of things, but they need to end up when we're sitting here maybe 1 year from tomorrow and feel pretty comfortable that they have stars in tow. So we can't know that. So much of it is unknowable. But what we can do is make bold proclamations as if we know things. So that's what I'm going to do in today's show. I'm going to make 5 bold predictions, getting increasingly bolder as the show goes on about what I think is going to happen in the NBA draft. Tomorrow's show will recap what happens in day 1 and look ahead to day 2. And then Friday's show will take a full holistic look at what happened in the draft and look ahead to what's next as free agency and the silly season begins. That's the rest of the week. A really fun time. If you're a new listener, welcome. I'm so happy to have you. If you're an everydayer, what's up? Welcome back. Let's keep on keeping on. So let's make some bold predictions. I'm going to start right here. The Blazers will select a center in the 2024 NBA draft. Now, that's not bold with a capital B. That's more like an italic prediction. That's a font joke. I'm sorry that I gave you a font joke 2 minutes into the program, but hey, sometimes it happens like that. The Blazers will draft a center. That's my first bold prediction. This isn't really that bold when you get right down to it, though. The Blazers have been linked by a variety of outlets to Donovan Clingan. They are very clearly interested in the UConn big man. Whether they can acquire him or another team such as Memphis leapfrogs them in order to get the two-time national champion remains to be seen. But if they don't draft Clingan, the Blazers have also worked out Zach Edey. They've worked out Khalil Ware. And for second-round targets, they've worked out UCL big men Adembona. Like, they seem pretty clearly to want to add a center to the mix, right? The whispers and all the buzz suggest that they want to add a center. What that means for the future of DeAndre Ayton will sort of play itself out. I do not anticipate that he would be immediately traded. That would probably be maybe somewhat irresponsible. But I think that the team feels that it seems pretty clear from all of the whispers, rumors, and stuff sort of swirling around the team that they are prioritizing a young center to add to the mix. If you're a longtime listener, every day, or shout out to my everydayers, you know that I think Clingan is probably the guy that they are that I would be most intrigued by at 7. And I don't think the Blazers have the tools to trade up beyond. They could maybe get to 3 with Houston, but they could be conceivably outbid, and I'm not really in favor of them stacking assets to go in that direction, but they could conceivably get there. And it seems like Alex Sarr is almost certainly going to be picked by the Washington Wizards, at least based on the intel we have now, which seems like Zach Risachet 1, Alex Sarr 2, and then the draft gets real funky with Houston at 3, and conceivably Atlanta could trade down from 1 as well, and maybe that puts them in the mix for Donovan Clingan. And I think if teams move up in that 3-4 range with Houston and San Antonio, Clingan is probably the target, and the team that is most often rumored to want to move up is Memphis. But if it isn't Clingan, the Blazers could take Zach Edey. I think there was some reporting from the Ringer that the Blazers could even take Zach Edey at 7. I think that would be bonkers, but I think 14 is not an outrageous place to take Edey. he's not I'm not much of a believer in him, but I bet he mashes in certain lineups in the NBA because he mashed in college, and I bet he'll mash in certain lineups in the NBA. I'm not sure what his overall impact is. I like Kel'el Ware if he hits his ceiling. If he doesn't hit his ceiling, he's probably not very good, but if he does hit his ceiling, he's gigantic and he shoots threes. And being really big with a really long arms so you can protect the rim and being able to shoot from the outside is sort of the 5-out dream, and then you end up with some size to score at the rim and some ability to space the floor. That's interesting. Where works out in a public workout for the Blazers. And Bona, another guy, is like he's probably in that 34-40 range with Blazers 2 second-round picks. Certainly that could be it. My first bold prediction is that they take a center. My second bold prediction: the Blazers leave the draft with 3 rookies. 3 rookies. That's my bold prediction. 3. Maybe that doesn't sound very bold to you, but let me walk you through it. Portland has 11 guaranteed contracts on the roster and 3 players under partial or non-guaranteed deals. So 11 guaranteed spots plus 2 guys in Toumani Camara and Jabari Walker that seem to be part of the plan in the future. But they're on non-guaranteed deals, so you can kind of, I would say, go ahead and just count them in the mix. I think there is a non-zero chance that they don't bring back Jabari Walker, but it's low. It's like very low. And then the 14th guy would be Delano Banton. The only player they have heading into free agency is Moses Brown. There's no way he comes back to the team. They have 3 centers on the roster in Duop Reith, Rob Williams, and DeAndre Ayton, and they're as you heard in the first bold prediction, they're going to get another one. So, like, they're full up, and then you're full up heading in the draft with 4 selections. You don't even have space for them. Obviously, they got to make some trades. They're pressing up against the luxury tax line and beyond, and pushing towards the first apron. If they keep everybody, so it's like in conjunction with taking these picks, they're going to have to make some other moves. Or right along with these picks, they're going to have to make some moves. But I believe the Blazers are not going to take all 4 picks, but they're not going to punt on 2 of them. They're going to end up with 3 rookies. My bold prediction is that even with a full roster and even with a whole bunch of youngsters on the team, a whole bunch of first and second year guys, and young third year guys like Jabari Walker, like even with a great deal of youth, and Shaedon Sharpe, throw him in there as a young third year guy. Even with a great deal of youth, the Blazers add 3 rookies in this draft because they can't help themselves to keep chasing the upside. If the second round picks could be 2-way guys. Blazers are going to have 2-way spots available. They have every team has 3, and the Blazers certainly could use all 3 on new additions. And I think they'll make some deals. See my future bold predictions. Those are my first 2 bold predictions for the NBA draft. The Blazers will draft 1 center. The Blazers will come away from this draft with 3 rookies in tow. We'll get a press conference with 3 guys holding up jerseys as the newest additions. And Joe Cronin will talk in that soft tone and say, "We're really excited about all these guys." And then we'll have to judge whether we believe him or not at a certain date in the future. Okay, I got more bold predictions coming at you in the second segment, including Malcolm Brogdon. Is he on the move? I got a bold prediction that says he is. Welcome to that second segment. Actually, join me in that second segment is what I usually say. Join me there. Let's talk about it. First, though, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by eBay Motors. There's 3 words you need to know. It's passion, drive, and patience. It's a formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, whether that's superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts to choose from for your number one ride or die, you're always going to find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, I got more bold predictions on tap. Let's talk about them, starting with my third bold prediction. Malcolm Brogdon is going to play for a new team, and that's not that bold. That's not that bold. It's not that bold because everybody knows that Malcolm Brogdon, not everybody knows. Maybe here, let me help you so now everyone can know. You can hear, I'll tell you, and then everyone will know. Malcolm Brogdon is entering the final year of his contract. He's the oldest player on the roster. The Blazers should have traded him last season, and whether they were unwilling or unable due to his health or the trade packages that were available to him, they have to trade him this summer. It will be straight up malpractice to bring him back. I think there's a world in which they trade other players and bring him back, but even then, a guy, the oldest player on the roster heading into the final year of his contract, you're going to trade him anyways because you're not going to re-sign him to a long-term deal. He needs to go. He should have already been gone, and now he's out of here. My bold prediction is not that Malcolm Brogdon gets traded, it's that Malcolm Brogdon gets traded to the Utah Jazz. As I said, these are getting bolder throughout the episode. I'm calling my shot. Malcolm Brogdon gets traded to the Utah Jazz. Here's my thinking here. There has been a lot of reporting, including from Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports, that, as well as Mark Stein of the Stein Line, that Colin Sexton is, the Jazz are shopping Colin Sexton. They kind of figured it out last year with getting him to play a little bit more like point guardy role as opposed to score guard, and they kind of figured it out. And then clearly at the end of the season, they wanted to turn that thing over to Keontae George. The Talen Horton-Tucker experiment failed. Colin Sexton kind of got him on track, and then like the future was there with George. And now there's been reporting that they're trying to shop Colin Sexton and kind of figure out a new home for him. And what I understand about the Jazz, they don't want to be bad. They don't want to bottom out. They're not the Brooklyn Nets, who on this fine day traded Mikal Bridges for a cajillion draft picks and then made other trades to get their own draft picks back. And if you want to see a team that's going to tank aggressively, look to Brooklyn. At beautiful Barclays Center, they are going to play losing basketball on purpose, launching an aggressive rebuild by loading up on draft picks, trading a player for draft picks only, because draft capital is what they prioritized. You can trade stars for a bunch of different things, but the Jazz don't want to be Brooklyn. They don't want to be a team that prioritizes just draft capital. They got a bunch of draft capital coming, right? Like they traded Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, and they're going to have parts if they want the parts, right? They will have draft picks in the future, but they don't want to bottom out, right? They don't want to bottom out. They want to just keep on plowing forward as a competitive team. And my bold prediction is that Malcolm Brogdon joins the Utah Jazz as part of a multi-team trade in which they find a way to unload Colin Sexton, but they're going to need another guard. They're going to need just sort of the veteran scoring presence and a little bit of offensive help. And as an off-ball guy who can pass and cut and shoot, will work in Will Hardy's system, I think that Malcolm Brogdon would be a wonderful fit in Utah. And my bold prediction is that at the end of the 2 days of the draft, Malcolm Brogdon is a member of the Utah Jazz, assuming that the trade is agreed to. It might not technically go through until July or whatever, because sometimes the way these trade agreements work is they can't go through till the new league year and et cetera, et cetera. So, but I my bold prediction, number 3, is that Malcolm Brogdon will be traded to the Utah Jazz. Increasingly more bold. So let's continue with these bold predictions. A fourth of 5 bold predictions. The Blazers will make 2 top 10 selections in the 2024 NBA draft. They're going to trade up and chase him. All this smoke about how much they want Donovan Clingan, all this smoke about how much they love Donovan Clingan, they're going to have to do it because he won't be there at 7. He's not going to fall into their laps. The Blazers will stay put at 7, and they will put a package together to move up further in the draft and get Donovan Clingan. Or at least 2 top 10 picks. I'm not bold enough to call Clingan on its own because I already called a center and I don't want to overlap. But my bold prediction here is that the Blazers make 2 top 10 selections. Obviously, Clingan is the one that they're linked to, but I'm calling it now. My bold prediction is that they get into the draft some way, somehow, be it in that multi-team trade with Utah that I am predicting, or in another fashion where some team like Memphis says, we didn't get our guy and we can't move up. What if we moved out and they trade 34 and 14 15 for 8, plus a future protected second round pick or something like that. And the Memphis just hops up out of there and says, okay, we'll take a cheaper draft slot because we do not want to be in the business of drafting a top 10 pick. And we're going to get a little bit cheaper and get some second rounders for an increasingly expensive roster in Memphis. I think the Blazers are going to have 2 top 10 picks. I will say this. I'm not really in favor of the Portland Trailblazers trading up in the draft and using veterans to trade up in the draft. I kind of think you'd rather just stay put, right? Like you'd rather just have, because the board is relatively flat. From my vantage point, it's just like, hey, there's not a huge difference, and there's not a lot of consensus between 5 and 15 in this draft, 5 and 12 in this draft. So like, let's just chill, right? Like if you're, why chase it and use assets when you can just let the board play itself out and have the talent come to you? But I don't know the draft like the Blazers front office, right? Like I'm just some dude with a yellow hat in his basement. I don't know anything. I have opinions. I know some stuff, but the sort of the depth and breadth of the entire draft and sort of the deep understanding of what prospects can become is something that is held by NBA front offices that I just don't have. I'm not watching enough games and forming enough strong enough sort of data-held beliefs, data-backed beliefs to have those opinions. But I do think the Blazers have those opinions, and I do think the Blazers are going to come away with 2 top 10 picks in this draft. Increasingly more bold predictions. They have 7 and 14. I think they're going to end up picking something like 6 and 7 and maybe getting involved with Charlotte, or my other guess is 7 and 8 with Memphis. Those are my two potential landing spots for them as teams that could potentially move around. Obviously, San Antonio has 4 and 8, and they have been rumored to be interested in trading up or interested in sort of moving around as well. So I think that would be curious. Obviously, the Jazz have a top 10 pick as well, and maybe in this sort of magical Malcolm Brogdon swap, the Blazers and Jazz swap 2024 picks. That's my bold prediction. I got one more bold prediction, and then I'll leave you with some parting thoughts as we head into the NBA draft. Join me in that third segment, won't ya? First, though, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Listen, sports are going to be here all summer. You're going to be able to watch Major League Baseball games all summer. You're going to be able to watch WNBA games deep into the summer. You're going to be able to watch late to the summer Olympics, starting in late July and heading into August. Like the NBA might be done, and the NBA draft is kind of maybe the end of your NBA gambling season, but if you want to get in the action all summer, FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook, has you covered, because all summer long, FanDuel is hooking up all customers. That's everybody with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. That's FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You are still listening to the Locked On Blazers. We're still getting more bold through all the predictions. We've run through 4. We're getting increasingly more bold as we run through it. My final and boldest prediction is that the Blazers will draft a point guard. And you will lose your mind. That's my final bold prediction. The Blazers are going to draft a point guard. All of the sort of, it's like, what do the Blazers need? They need an impact player at the 3 and 4 spots at small forward and power forward to kind of take this team to the next level, right? Like that's kind of been the position they're missing. The sort of last good version of the Blazers was built around 2 offense first guards. This version of the Blazers is threatening to be built around offensively a trio right now of offense focused guards. Shaedon Sharpe might end up being more of a 2-way guy, but like Ant and Scoot, that's kind of where they lean as well. So we're closing in on I don't know, two decades. I'm thinking like Pippen and Steve Smith, even veterans, since the Blazers have had like high level, like truly highly impactful wings. Wesley Matthews was a 2, but he was an impactful wing. Nicholas Batum was good in his time. The Blazers got really, really high, really meaningful production out of the Mo Harkless, Al-Farouq Aminu forward pairing. They were decently competitive with the Derek Jones Jr., Robert Covington pairing, and then they were really, really not competitive with that same group. But it's been a while since they've had a high-level wing. So everyone looks at this draft and they say they need wings. And I think those people are correct. I think they need plus size on the wings. I think the ideal pairing for a team that's going to play 6'2" Scoot Henderson is plus size on the wings. It's like a 6'8" small forward and a 6'11" mobile power forward, and to be like big across the front line with a smaller but physically imposing point guard. I think that would be the sort of ideal build if you're building out a magical roster. You can't just do that, right? You kind of have to play the draft and play the world that you actually exist in. But if you were picking what it would look like that. And the Blazers seem to be dead set on drafting a center, right? They seem to be really interested in Donovan Clingan. There's some whispers that they're really interested in Zach Edey. They obviously, as I said, worked out Khalil Ware and Adem Bona. Like, they're center hunting. And my first bold prediction is that they'll draft a center here. And my last bold prediction, increasingly bold as we move on down, is they're going to draft a point guard. They're going to buck what is sort of the consensus and what we think about this team. And like the Blazers have a type, right? Like sort of longer athletic wings that can't shoot. I don't think they meant to have them not be able to shoot, but that's kind of how it's been, right? Is that they've kind of gone after this. And Ryan Rupert actually can, if he can do anything on offense, it's shoot. Standstill three is like the only thing he can do. So I'll take that back. But these sort of like athletic, lengthy, rangy wings is kind of the prototype that they've been after. So this is increasingly bold because they need wings. They've liked wings as sort of the type of player that they've liked, and they've been linked to a bunch of centers. They're going to draft a point guard, and it's just going to infuriate you. My thought on this is that that's kind of fine. Like, you know, if you assume that eventually they move off of Malcolm Brogdon, like in the next week, and for me, like in the next 36 hours, I guess 48 hours as I'm recording this. But like, if you assume that's the case, and you assume that at some point they're going to have to make a decision on Avery Simon's future with 2 years remaining on his contract, either they sign him to an extension this summer and it becomes really funny, CJ McCollum part 2, or like, or they finally pull the plug and decide that they need to trade him, and that's the direction they want to go. Like, they're still going to need depth, and they're still going to need more guards. Like, I think they ended up in a part of the season last year where they just didn't have enough dudes who could dribble, and had to like give Ashton Higgins a bunch of minutes at the end of the season. And that is like a reality, is that maybe you'd rather fill the end of the bench with like capable ball handler. I don't think it would be like a crime to draft a guard. It might be a little weird to draft them in the lottery, but I don't think it would be a crime to draft a guard with a second round pick. But I can see Blazer fans kind of freaking out about it. Oops, all guards, a phrase coined here on this very podcast. We'll probably say it again, but it would be right now. The roster's like oops, mostly forwards, oops, mostly wings, but like not a good one yet. And maybe they're after oops, too many centers, oops, 4 centers. But like we'll kind of see where it looks like when the dust settles. So those are my bold predictions. 1, they'll draft a center. 2, they'll leave the draft with 3 rookies. 3, Malcolm Brogdon gets traded to the Utah Jazz. 4, the Blazers will make 2 top 10 selections in the draft. And 5, they will draft a point guard. Those are your bold predictions. I mentioned this at the top of the show, and I want to reiterate it here. This is a pretty big couple days for this team. 2 rounds, day one on Wednesday, round 2 on Thursday, round one Wednesday, round 2 Thursday. They can improve the team in the trade market. They can add impactful pieces with minimum signings or a portion of the mid-level exception, but I don't think they're going to be players in free agency in any meaningful way. And the trade market is perhaps another way that they could really move the needle in terms of where they want to go. Although they're not going to be trading for impactful players. Like, they're not going to be trading for Mikal Bridges. They're going to be like doing the other thing, right? They're going to be the team that's like trading away more impactful vets for younger upside swings, right? They're going to be the team trading Alex Caruso. Although they don't have a player, and their vets are maybe not as impactful winning wise as Caruso. But like, the trade market could get them closer and get them push them in the right direction. But if they're going to if this franchise is going to get out of the mud, and they chose the mud, right? They steered right into the mud and said, let's make sure that our wheels get stuck. Like, they chose this path. This was intentional. The fact that they're here and drafting with 2 picks in the lottery was very intentional. They prioritized getting the Golden State pick, and then they themselves were pretty bad, and they're probably going to be pretty bad again next year. They have to get this right. I don't know what right looks like, and I think it would be silly for me to sit here and scream, this is exactly what they need to do on the draft night. I don't know. I have some opinions, and I will certainly, after they make the selection, share some opinions, but here's what I know. This is an incredibly important 2 days. They have to come away from this draft with an NBA starter. Maybe not an all-star, because that's hard to do in a draft that's considered kind of a down class. But this is considered a strong role player draft, and the Blazers need to leave the draft. They need to come away from the draft with a starting level NBA player. Not like in October. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you draft a rookie, you get 4 years of a first round pick, right? That's how it works. You get 2 guaranteed years and then a 1+1, 2 team options that you exercise before year 3 and before year 4. Heading into year 2 for year 3 and then heading into year 3 for year 4. You exercise those options. So like if you draft a guy in the first round, you have 4 years plus after that they hit restricted free agency. You kind of have, if you draft a guy in the first round, you have a window. You have a multi-year window. So they don't need to have a player that immediately pans out and is that. But like they need a player that is clearly heading into year 2 an NBA starter. Whether they start in year 2 is another thing, but clearly a capable NBA starter. They cannot just hit eighth men. If they get a bunch of dudes who are like, oh yeah, this guy is probably a rotation level player, they're just not going to save the franchise. Next year, it's going to be imperative that they hit a star. This year, if they do hit a star, that's incredible, but I think that it's mostly considered this draft is deep with role players, but not strong with high-end talent. Someone in there will hit, and if the Blazers are that team, then that's huge for them. But they have to come away with an NBA starter in this draft. The next 2 days, they absolutely 100% unequivocally need to leave the draft with someone who is a long-term NBA starter. Like I said, 4 years plus they hit restricted free agency. You can have a player on the team for 8 or 9 seasons if you draft them in the first round and they have nothing, and you have full team control for 8 years or 9 if you give them a max contract. It's like an NBA starter. That's what they have to come away with it. It's the only way. It's the only way to get out of the mud. Otherwise, you're just in the mud and forever until you get it right. And if this front office doesn't get it right, someone else is going to make the decisions eventually. This is a huge couple days. And also a really fun couple days. If you're a fan, I was talking with some friends today who are big Blazers fans. It's like, this is a really fun time of year. It's a really fun, like the draft is fun because it's hopeful and it's a new person to get excited about and to learn about and to know more about and to like envision how they fit into the immediate fit and into the future and all of those things. I really love the draft season because you get to be excited. You get to have optimism, unbridled optimism. You don't, the sort of like dark rain cloud Winnie the Pooh stuff comes later when you start to see the sort of picture come in, get a little bit clearer. But the moment of draft night is fun. It's fun. It's young men realizing their dreams and fans getting to be hopeful about what's next for their franchise. So tomorrow night when the Blazers make their picks, do what you do. Hold on to your joy and enjoy it. It'll be a whole bunch of fun, and then come back for tomorrow's show. We'll react to all of the stuff that happens with the Blazers and across the NBA in night 1 of the draft, and then the following show on Friday will be a holistic look at night 2, plus everything that transpired across 2 days of the NBA draft. Tell your friends about the program. We'll keep on keeping on. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.